You ever wake up one morning, stroll out to check your cattle, and realize that somebody, somewhere, just decided your entire life, your land, your legacy is a community dog park? Yeah, welcome to my world. And trust me, it gets a whole lot weirder from here. So picture this, my family's ranch, 500 acres of rolling pasture and busted-up barns, out here since before the Depression. My great-granddad bought this patch of dirt when this place was nothing but wild grass and the occasional stubborn cow. For generations later, the place is still ours. Every fence post, every broken-down tractor, every patch of stubborn weeds. You can probably smell the history or the cow pies, depending which way the wind's blowing. A few years back, things started changing. Progress, they call it. Developers moved in next door, built one of those high-end, get away from it all but bring your subscription Wi-Fi, gated communities right up against my east fence line. The kind with million-dollar houses and security gates that look like something out of a Bond movie. I didn't care, honestly. Civilization creeping closer sounded nice after decades of nothing but coyotes and the odd lost tourist. But then about 8 months ago, I'm out on my morning rounds, minding my own business, boots muddy, coffee in hand, thinking about fence repairs, and bam! I spot a bunch of hikers with REI backpacks, taking selfies and stomping through my back pasture like they just discovered Yosemite. I pull up, all polite, because that's how we do things out here, and I'm about to ask if they're lost, when one of the ladies whips out her phone and shows me this digital map. And you're not going to believe this. The map, her official community amenities guide, has my whole ranch shaded in green, labeled as Phase 2 Nature Preserve and Private Trail System. According to this app, my cows, my barns, my life, they're just bullet points on some realtor's sales pitch. And she's so dang friendly about it, too. We paid a fee for these amenities, she says, smiling like it's normal to trespass if your app tells you to. I try to explain nicely that this land isn't a public park. They apologize, pack up, and leave without drama. But let me tell you, that walk back to the house. I'm mad, but mostly I'm worried. Because how does a whole HOA just decide that someone else's ranch is their next big thing? I figure it's gotta be some software glitch, right? So I let it slide, until 2 weeks later. I'm in town buying feed, and I bump into my neighbor. He's on the other side of the development and starts telling me about complaints he's getting. Residents don't like the look of our barns or the sound of the tractor. He says it in that neighborly way, like maybe we could compromise. But my nearest barn's 300 yards away from their property line, and nobody's ever filed a real complaint. The whole thing stinks. That's when I decide to drive to the sales office for the development, just to see for myself. I play the part. Hey, I'm interested in your amenities. The agent is all too happy to show me the brochures, full color, glossy, and right there, like a punch in the gut, is an aerial photo of my land, marked as their future expansion. They even have artist sketches, picnic areas, nature trails, a community garden, right where my cows are currently fertilizing the grass. The sales agent, she's excited. Oh, Phase 2 will be ready next year. Residents are already paying fees for these amenities. She tells me the HOA is handling the land acquisition, like it's a sure thing. That's the moment I realize this is no error. This is a hustle. The HOA is selling a dream that isn't theirs to sell, and my property's the centerpiece. A week goes by, and then it's not just hikers in my pasture, it's paperwork on my doorstep. My wife brings out this official-looking letter from the HOA, all legalese and arrogance. Notice of maintenance access and aesthetic compliance requirements. Translation? Your barns are ugly. Your tractors are old. Remove them, or we'll fine you. And, get this, they include a map drawing a red box around my land as subject to HOA oversight. Now, I'm not a hothead. My family's been wrangling land disputes since before Ford put a V8 in a pickup. I know what's legal and what's bluster. But I also know that if you don't shut these things down fast, they tend to grow legs and start running. So I call up our family attorney, old friend, knows every trick in the book. He laughs so hard at the HOA letter he nearly drops his coffee. They have zero jurisdiction, he says. But get ready, because these people don't give up easy. He suggests I go to the next HOA board meeting, put faces to names, clear things up, before lawyers get involved and the meter starts running. So one Thursday night, I stroll into their fancy clubhouse, all decked out with marble counters and live, laugh, love art on the walls. The board president? Oh, he's a piece of work. Expensive suit, real estate slickness, hair so perfect you could land a drone on it. He listens to my story with a smile you'd use on a toddler who just drew on the wall. He stands up, thanks me for my concern, and then, with full confidence, tells the whole room that the HOA has done extensive research and determined that my property is eligible for prescriptive easement rights. I nearly choke. Prescriptive easement? That's not how that works. But he keeps going, shows a giant poster of the plan, with my ranch stamped right in the middle, and tells the residents how backwards rural owners need to learn about modern land use. People start clapping. I'm standing there, mouth open, realizing this isn't incompetence, it's a full-on con job, and he's got the room eating out of his hand. I try to push back, but he just waves me off. Our attorneys are handling the details. Meeting ends, and they vote to proceed with Phase 2, and keep collecting those amenity fees. At this point, I know polite isn't going to cut it. Then the real escalation starts. Marking stakes appear in my pasture, little surveyor flags popping up like mushrooms after rain. I call the HOA office. They tell me to talk to their legal team. Next thing, I get a bill in the mail, $150 a month, for land management services on my own land. They're actually charging me to steal from me. But that invoice has a silver lining. It breaks down the Phase 2 assessment fees, over $30,000 a month from residents. That's not a misunderstanding. That's fraud. Time for me to strike back. I call my attorney, and he's got a plan. File a quiet title action, force them to prove, publicly, what they're claiming. But he adds a twist. Invite the HOA and all the residents to a public meeting at the courthouse. If they've got evidence, let's see it. If not, let's see how long the president can tap dance when the spotlights are on. I send out certified letters, one to the board, one to every resident, inviting them to the courthouse, promising to bring every deed, survey, and scrap of paper dating back to my great-granddad. And I encourage the residents to come, especially if they're paying those Phase 2 fees. Within 48 hours, the HOA president calls me, angry, desperate, telling me to cancel, threatening lawsuits. I can hear the panic. And nothing in the world is more satisfying than knowing you've got the truth and someone else knows you have it too. The day of the meeting, I set up early, projector, giant maps, boxes of documents. The room's packed, almost the whole community shows, some of them with notebooks, some looking pretty ticked off. The president and board sit in the front, trying to look cool but shifting in their seats. I start at the beginning. Original deed, 1923, signed, sealed, and still smelling faintly of tobacco and hope. Survey after survey, every transfer, every tax bill, right up to last year's satellite images with GPS overlays. My surveyor walks everyone through it, even points out the ancient oak tree that marks the eastern boundary, the one my great-granddad carved his initials into, and which, by the way, isn't going anywhere. By the end, it's obvious. Our ranches was and always will be ours. Then I hand the mic to the HOA president. He walks up empty-handed, starts mumbling about ongoing legal reviews and how property law is complicated. I interrupt, all smiles, and ask him to show just one document, just one, that proves their claim. Silence. Then he starts fumbling about prescriptive easement, which my attorney immediately torpedoes. You can't claim that unless you've used the land openly for 15, 20 years. HOA's barely been there 3. A wave of anger sweeps the room. Residents stand up, demanding to know where their money went. A woman says she's paid $200 extra every month for 2 years for a park that doesn't exist. Another asks for proof of any construction contract, any permit. The president tries to dodge, but the surveyor, God bless him, has one more card to play. Live GPS overlay, showing the actual legal boundary, no confusion, no gray areas. That's the moment it all comes apart. One board member, a woman who clearly had no idea, stands up and quits on the spot. 2 others follow. The room dissolves into chaos, shouting, calls for refunds, threats to call the police. The president tries to regain control, says there's been a mapping error. Too late. Nobody's buying it. Afterwards, some residents come up, apologize, offer to help. I tell them, hey, I'm not mad at you. You were scammed, just like me, except I kept my land, and you lost your money. By the end of the day, half the community has signed up for a class action against the HOA and the president personally. The fallout is spectacular. The president is fired, sued, and, according to the new board, caught siphoning HOA money to pay his own legal bills and fund his fantasy acquisition project. The class action drags on, but residents eventually get most of their fees back. The settlement requires the president to pay for a brand new, high-security privacy fence along my property, and write a personal apology to every single homeowner. Word is, he had to sell his own house and skip town. Karma has a mean sense of humor. What did I learn? That sometimes, all it takes to stand up to power is a big stack of paperwork and the nerve to say, no, that rural people get underestimated by city slickers with fancy degrees and shiny shoes. But out here, we know the land, and we play the long game. I realized, maybe a little late, that justice isn't about yelling or threatening. It's about showing up calmly with the truth in hand and letting the facts do the talking. The ranch is quieter now, with the new fence up and the new HOA board sending us Christmas cards every year, probably hoping we'll never come to another meeting. I keep the apology letter from the ex-president in my desk. Sometimes I take it out, read it, and laugh. Because in the end, the land my great-granddad bought is still ours, and when my grandkids run across these fields, I know nobody's going to amenity them out of it. But let me ask you something. At what point does progress become just another word for taking what doesn't belong to you? Where's the line between community and con game? I'd love to hear where you'd draw it, or if you've ever had to fight for what's yours. Drop your stories, your thoughts, or even your best HOA horror tales in the comments. Maybe together, we'll figure out where justice actually lives.